Good evening, everybody, or I guess good Tuesday morning, everyone. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com. Well after midnight here in Mackey Arena, following Purdue's 83-71 Gavitt Games ending win over Xavier. This is your wrap video. Thank you to the Purdue Club Hotel for your support. One of these years we're going to get an endorsement here from the vacuums. If you're new to the show, you're probably unfamiliar with my affinity for the vacuums, the contraptions that folks wear on their backs while they clean out the arena after games. It's like a backpack with like a cylinder on the back that collects the filth, I guess, with a big long elephant nose of a vacuum. It's pretty cool. I've always been conflicted whether to call them vacuums or back vacs, one or the other. Anyway, Purdue beats Xavier 83-71. It's kind of funny because, this is probably a product of the fact that when I watch Purdue play, I'm judging them for what they're ranked and for what they should be this season and all that stuff. And watch this game, and I didn't think Purdue played, great. I didn't think they were great on offense, to start the game, and I thought they were just okay through the first half, and then at the end of the day, here you are with 83 points, and you shot 51%, and I didn't think this was a classic Zach-Edey game, and then you get the box score afterwards, and 28 points, 11 rebounds, 11 fouls drawn. That's not bad. 4 block shots, all that stuff, and I'm still sitting here thinking, oh, he missed 4 of his first 5 shots, though. So don't take it for granted. Guys like this don't come along very often, and he is just an unbelievable player and just an absolute one-of-a-kind kind of guy in terms of a player. And today was a classic example. He wears on you, he wears on you, he wears on you until you break. And, he puts ultimate pressure on opponents, opens up these threes. It's only November, so obviously don't view any of this as enduring reality that the way Purdue's shooting the basketball right now is going to be the same way they're shooting the basketball in March. You never know. But he opens up everything for everybody else around him. He fouls out the other team. He gets in the bonus, relatively quickly. A big part of Purdue closing out this game. It's a big part of Purdue's winning formula is Purdue gets in the bonus with 10:54 left when they're up 8 points. That's game, set, match right there. If Purdue can make its free throws, and of course Purdue can make its free throws, or did tonight. Zach-Edey's 10 of 11 at the line. How many 7'4" guys with gigantic hands that make the basketball look like a tangerine? How many guys like that can make 10 of 11 free throws, including whatever he was down the last few minutes of the game to completely put this away? He is just a really unique player, and this is the sort of situation where you run the risk of taking it for granted because the productivity is there every game to the point where it's just part of the landscape, and you just sort of stop talking about it. You stop noticing it, and I'm just here to tell you as the back vac draws nearer that don't take it for granted. Guys like this, you'll be telling your grandkids about one day, depending on how old you are. If you're already a grandparent, then your grandkids may very well be watching this real time, and then you don't have to tell them about it because they've seen it for themselves. If you're a younger man, maybe one day, many, many years from now, or woman, many, many years from now, you might say, hey, I was there that time when Zach-Edey scored 28 points and got 11 rebounds against Xavier, and nobody even noticed. Anyway, the Edey factor is real, and it is going to be an advantage for Purdue every single game they play. Just like it was last season. The difference between last season and Purdue hopes this season is that everything around him falls into place to absolutely maximize his value. That was the issue last year. That is what ended Purdue's season, was when you made the supporting cast beat you at the worst possible time. Purdue could not do that. It could enough to win a Big Ten championship, win a bunch of games, but it cannot when it matters most. And at some point in time, I have to stop protracting the FDU game over this whole season. But I'm just using it to put a face on what I'm talking about here. A peacock face, if you will. The supporting cast thus far, and at some point too, I have to stop calling Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer part of the supporting cast. I don't know what's going on here, but something's up. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, I think, unto themselves are, more than just supporting cast. I think those guys are really good players, and I think some other guys on this roster who, in time, are going to be really good players. I think they're having a hard time getting the one guy's attention. So hopefully this resolves itself soon. I think that Purdue's supporting cast, including those guys I just mentioned as being something more than supporting cast now, I think is just way more, I almost said way more better, way more suited, way better suited to beat people when need be than they might have been last season, when Purdue was just way too one-dimensional, way too top-heavy from a productivity and a usage perspective. Now I think you saw it in the first couple games, albeit against by-game chum situations where Xavier can still get his 20 points or whatever on like 8 shots, and everybody else can get higher usage and get in the flow of things a little bit better and get empowered a little bit more, build some confidence. Tonight, I don't know what more to say about Miles Colvin. This is microwave type stuff. For those of you who watched the Pistons back in the 90s, there was a player named Eddie Johnson, who they called the microwave because he just came in and scored. There's a lot of players in the NBA like that right now too, guys like they just come in the game and score. They just go get buckets, and that's what so far Miles Colvin has been for Purdue. He comes in, all he does is shoot, but that's all he has to do. Purdue's never had a guy like this who just comes in off the bench and just gives you instant offense. He has no conscience about getting the ball up, and he makes them all. And it's funny, like that shot he made before halftime, he wasn't ready to shoot that ball. I went back and watched it. His hands were at his side when Braden Smith made that pass. But he's just that instinctive a scorer that he can just catch the ball, not even expecting it, and just throw it in the basket. And that was a huge shot, and all 3 of his threes were huge shots, because anytime the guys you didn't prepare for beat you, those are huge shots, because it's like offensive rebounds where it's just debilitating to the opponent, where you sell out to try to stop Xavier, you sell out to try to stop Braden Smith, and all of a sudden Miles Colvin kills you. When you probably you might not have known who Miles Colvin was 6 weeks ago. So just can't say enough about the spark offensively he's given Purdue. I'll go back and watch the video, but he looked fine on defense live from where I was sitting. Maybe he's coming along faster than the process would normally dictate a player of that age, of his relatively raw experience level, would suggest. But you can't say enough about him. Ethan Morton and Caleb First, those guys at the end of the year were 2 of the guys who clearly did not have a lot of confidence in themselves, in their shots, both. Again, a November game is not any sort of indication of enduring reality in that regard, but to see those guys making shots now, and these weren't their first shots they've made this season, albeit none of them particularly high stakes before tonight. Those are 2 huge threes that First and Ethan Morton made. They can't experience too much success early on here. Confidence drives them, I think, and the more guys Purdue has who can make a shot out there, the better. That said, those guys' value is not tied up 100% in their ability to make those open threes, but if they can do it, their value then suddenly spikes as well. Purdue made jumpers when they needed to make jumpers in this game, and a big part of that too was Braden Smith just taking this game by the throat. And I can't remember what Xavier got within, maybe 6. something like that, and then Braden Smith just comes off 2 ball screens and sticks mid-range jumpers, and that's just a gamer, and a guy who, you put him in this ball screen action that Purdue's run with him and Ade, and it's just, you get a good shot every time, or you get a foul, or you get something good. He's in absolute command right now. He's got to take care of the basketball better. He and Lance Jones alike. Purdue turned the ball over. Maybe not necessarily too much from a numbers perspective, but the turnovers were impactful. And that's something that's obviously got to be a key to Purdue's success all season long. But you can't ask a whole lot more from Braden Smith than what you're getting here. He's not just becoming one of the best point guards in the Big Ten. He's becoming one of the best point guards in the country, and a transformative player for Purdue from last season to this season. You're seeing real time the benefits of him just asserting himself as a scorer more. It's changing Purdue, and that's a pretty big deal. And that's, if you run down the biggest differences between this year and last year so far, I think Braden Smith's mentality is number one on that list, because I really think it is that big a deal for Purdue. I mentioned before that when the guy you didn't prepare for beats you, it's particularly debilitating for an opponent. Well, where would Purdue have been at halftime if not for Miles Coleman and Camden Heide getting 10 points between them? Where would Purdue have been at halftime without getting 10 points off fast breaks? One way or another, that they found a way to cobble together enough offense. Muddle's an entirely different word. To just keep hanging in there when their offensive structure wasn't necessarily flowing all that well. I think Xavier did a good job making Zach Edey shoot from further away than he would have preferred. He had a couple just go down and out, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. The ball has a lot of air. The ball is round and full of air, and sometimes it just bounces too much. And that was the story of Purdue's start offensively. But once again, you get to the end, and Purdue's got 83 points. They shoot 51%. And again, I don't know how you felt watching the game on TV, but I didn't think they played great. And at the end of the day, everything looks great. So, Purdue's shooting really well from 3. Again, that's something that the nature of the three-pointer is such that could come and go still. But Purdue's got to be able to find ways to win when it doesn't, and I think you're seeing a pretty malleable team here that can get to the basket, that can score in the low post, that can get out and transition some, that can push tempo. And this team might not be as reliant on the three-pointer as last year's team intended to be, and that's a sign of a really, really good team. And Purdue is a really, really good team, and obviously Xavier was a little shorthanded here, a lot shorthanded. But this is what they have, and they got some good players on this team. And it's a Power 5 program who has always recruited at a high level. Sean Miller's going to be in the Hall of Fame as a coach one day, probably. And you can't take wins like this for granted, because they don't always come easy. And with that said, Purdue now obviously goes out to Hawaii for its ultimate proving ground in Honolulu, not Maui. The Maui Invitational in Honolulu. Is Purdue ready? They sure looked at, I guess, the first 3 games. Just like the mix Purdue has going, they've got to be better defensively. They got to keep the ball out of the paint better, things like that. And that'll get put to the test here against Gonzaga. What day is that? Monday? Yeah, Monday. So I will talk to you guys again, whatever the hell day it is after Purdue's done playing Gonzaga from Honolulu at the University of Hawaii. So from Purdue's 83-71 win over Xavier in the swan song of the Gavitt Games, this is Brian Neubert from goldenblack.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials. No matter how it is you process our materials, even if they're drowned out by the backpacks. So, and thank you to the Purdue Club Hotel once again for your support. We appreciate it very much. And I will talk to you guys again later. Bye now.